Scream 1996.
Part 1, in-depth horror discussion review. We're talking about the death scenes, the characters.
It's gonna be for fans of the movie.
The tight
break
shots.
Down the scenes, the death scenes.
The tight parts of the story.
Talk about the Ghostface legendary villain.
And talk about the shitty parts of the story.
There's so many things we gotta go over. Alright, we're gonna jump right into this one.
Scene 1. Starts with the Dimension logo.
I think even Miramax was like the distributor of it back then. I remember being too young to even go and see it in the theaters.
Yeah, you were too
But
young.
everyone in middle school would be talking about it. No, anyway,
I remember back in the late 90s, everyone would be like, oh.
Then there was a bunch of real life Scream copycats that were like killing their like mom.
I was just say, like, there was a couple real life
like on your local
murders.
news that you would see.
Yeah, I remember seeing that when I was a kid.
Who is this?
Wow.
I'm sorry.
And the phone's already ringing in the legendary Ghostface.
You want to talk to me? I want to talk to you for a second.
Wow, he wants to talk.
You tell me your name, I'll tell you mine. I want to know who I'm looking at.
Show you your thumb, he'll show you his.
Right out of a horror movie or something. You should never say who's there. Don't you watch scary movies? It's a death wish.
Alright, let's jump
You
into this.
like scary movies? What's your favorite
This is
scary
all
movie?
the opening scene.
I like that movie. It was scary. I want to play a game. Name the killer in Friday the 13th. Yes, very good.
Spoilers at the butt.
That's the wrong answer. Then you should know Jason's mother, Mrs. Voorhees, was the original killer. Jason didn't show up until the sequel. I'm afraid that was a wrong answer. Don't hang up on me.
Even though Jason showed up at the end of part 1 when he took the main bitch into the lake, which is like a dream sequence, but
Alright,
obviously
so
it
starts
wasn't.
with the Dimension logo. And it shows the 90s, like, freaking Windows 98, like,
that was the whole opening
screaming,
scene. We don't need to do
screaming.
those. I mean, Roger L. Jackson does those to
It's the
perfection,
scream
like
in
we were
white,
saying.
in white letters, and it's like the freaking,
His
you know,
voice is
PowerPoint.
like so
It's
legendary.
like a 98 Windows PowerPoint.
Scream is
opening.
basically like Kevin Williamson combined like
the lettering.
Halloween and like the first 10 minutes of the original When a Stranger Calls.
Kinda.
So anyway,
So the phone rings, Drew Barrymore, she's the blonde they start off with.
and then he's just like, "Oh, I only eat popcorn at the movies."
I only eat popcorn at the movies. She's
You
like,
see-
yeah, I'm watching a scary movie. And he's like, oh, really? What's your favorite scary movie? Yeah, blah, we all know.
No, what's her answer? And then he's like, "Oh, A Nightmare on Elm Street."
She's like, yeah. She's like, the first one was good. The rest of them sucked. It's pretty
Couldn't have
good.
said it better.
Pretty good lines.
Well, they get kind of worse actually. I can enjoy the first 3.
Wow.
Go on.
The first couple.
Go back
pretty
to the
tight.
soundtrack.
Well,
Of course
tell
you
me your
remember.
name, I'll tell you mine.
And he's just like, "Alright, we're gonna play more of a game, really.
Yeah, and he's like, name the, yeah, and then and he's like, yeah.
Can you handle that?" Ghostface forgot to tell her that she was the dumb blonde with the big
Nah.
tits.
And then he's like, I'm gonna gut you like a fish. And this is when she first starts getting scared when he says that. Because he's like, don't hang up because she's already hanged up with him a couple times.
And she's like, "Hey, my boyfriend's gonna be here and he's gonna kick your ass.
He's black. And
He's big and he's black."
And he'll kick your ass.
Okay, we're gonna be going over like freaking scary movie. You can't even talk about this movie anymore without referring to
mentioning
scary
Scary
movie, of course.
Of course, because freaking there's so many funny parts that they, you know, made out of this, stole out of this and made.
And then Ghostface goes Jigsaw and he's like, "I wanna play a game. I ask a question, he lives. Oh, here's a warm up for you. Name the killer in Halloween." "Oh, Michael Myers, I know this one." Of course, you have nothing to say.
No. Freaking, so then, yeah, no, it's so retarded. It's like, oh, you should know what's your favorite. Yeah, it's freaking retarded.
And then obviously she gets the second one wrong. The Friday the 13th
13th
one.
question, and then he's like, look out on the porch, and she's like, no, it's turned on the
You
light.
should
and
know
it's
Jason's mother, Mrs.
Nah, it's her
Voorhees.
boyfriend, and his freaking stomach's all cut. And the
Oh, I
freaking-
know. He like doesn't even move. Like they just show the prop blood pour out his freaking stomach.
It was pretty tight. It was sick. The grips were like
They
got out
didn't
the fake
do a good
guts.
job of editing and showing it like it was real though.
Nah, they kind of did. I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah, well, you should know Mrs. Voorhees. Jason didn't show up to the sequel according to the
I
gay
should know.
Kevin Williamson.
Well, freaking, it's still tight because if you're a kid, that would scare the hell out of you. You think it was real?
Yeah, well, you should know Mrs. Voorhees.
Wow.
Shut the
Fucking guy. Alright, so then it cuts from there. She runs, no, she hangs up, she runs to the kitchen and grabs the knife. You know, it's like the infamous scene where freaking, in the beginning of Scary Movie, when she
And then
runs,
she- no,
it's
she
the banana
gives-
and the gun and the freaking,
And Ghostface gives her the third question. He's like, "What door
and
am
the
I
grenade.
at?" And then he
And
throws.
she's like, ah, and he throws the chair
He
through
throws-
the window and he comes through and she
And it's
freaking runs.
vintage Ghostface, like his calling
The
card is
first time they show
stumbling
him.
around and running into everything in sight.
And like throwing the knife up and coming
Then he
at her.
headbutts through the glass.
Oh yeah, no, 'cause she turns
And it's the
around.
first time you see the mask
Yeah, 'cause
ever
she's-
in the franchise.
She goes to freaking call the cops, but the phone's dead, or script convenience. Like it's like, oh.
So then they run out and they struggle with
And she
Ghostface.
sees her parents from afar.
And also the first ever Ghostface mask that they got, it was all pushed in and half retarded.
I thought it looked pretty tight.
You used to say it was retarded all the time.
That's not
L-Mid.
true.
This is when he stabs her in the implant.
From Scary Movie 1.
And he slits her throat, even though, no, he just
And the
pokes
parents,
her throat.
no, the parents show up and they're like coming
red
in.
eye
And
stuff.
she's like far away, like on the side of the house, like trying to call her, but her throat's slit, she can't, talk. Anyways,
Oh, nice horror moment.
pretty
I
crazy.
like
So then the parents see that everything's all disarray and that the popcorn's still been cooking, and like the bag's all like 30 foot.
popcorn that she was cooking.
Inside
yeah.
Scary Movie, the bag of popcorn gets like 30 feet tall.
And
I
then,
think it's like 10 feet tall.
and then this is when she goes to pull off Ghostface
and her
mask,
mom,
and
like-
Ghostface stabs her the final
her
time.
mom grabs the popcorn, puts it in the sink.
Yeah.
Freaking bag.
And they're like, call the
freaking-
Johnsons.
Yeah, they're like, alright, call the cops. Call the police. And the father calls the police. And then they
No,
go
then the
outside.
parents find her gutted
Yeah,
on the tree.
and she's like hanging
Oh.
from the tree, and you're like, oh, is this a horror movie?
This opening scene has just become so iconic. No, it's honestly one of the best horror scenes.
It's pretty cool.
Isolated out in the middle of nowhere, freaking scary as it can be
Group of
scripted.
teens talking all about horror movies. It's pretty tight.
Oh,
Anyways,
I know,
so it
awesome
cuts
horror
from-
script.
So it cuts from there to the infamous high school scene.
We got plenty of overall thoughts that we'll go through when we break it down. Anyway, Billy Loomis shows up at Sydney's, and her dad's leaving for the weekend. And he's just like, oh yeah, well shipment moved, and oh, you mean Uncle
I
Escobar?
gotta visit Uncle Escobar.
Oh, you know,
and,
thumbs might get broke, heads might be rolling.
yeah, stuff like that. Just the cops come, just flush my stash, and if you're gonna make anything for me,
You cut it with baking soda, not
baking
baking powder.
Otherwise, guys will have muffins growing up their nose.
If you cut it with baking
Oh, you love that
powder,
joke. You love that joke.
You
Ever
love
since you
it.
were 5 years old.
Shut the fuck.
It's hilarious. No, it's from
From
Scary Movie.
Scary Movie.
But anyway, so the dad's telling her, he's going on a business trip.
Daddy's head stuck.
Wow. Did you guys just see a rare footage glimpse of Mr. Creepshow's dome right there? Because it flipped off. Wow. Alright, anyways. So then the dad tells her that, he's going on a business trip, so she leaves. But then right as he's, leaving, shuts the door, his daughter, her boyfriend, comes through the freaking window like it's Dawson's Creek or something.
Oh, wrong set.
Wrong set. Now he comes to the window and she's like, what are you doing here?
And don't forget to flush my stash in case the cops
Alright, we're
come.
done with that. Her dad left, door shut. The boyfriend comes to the window and he's like, hey, let's make out. He's
Yeah.
like, let's
And
do,
he was just like, And they make how many horror movie
He's like,
references?
"What?"
That's why you gotta love this movie, all the horror movie references.
Oh yeah, it's pretty.
He's just
tight.
like, I was watching The Exorcist and it got me thinking about us.
It got me thinking about us.
But it was kind of shitty because it was edited for television. And then it got me thinking about us again.
Wow. And you're like,
All the good stuff was
you're like,
taken
who
out.
wrote this?
And he's just a gay guy, I already told you.
Wow. Go on.
He's trying to feel her up so they, but he's up against a scripted pure virgin. And he gets denied.
She denies him and she's like, but I'll set it for PG-13. And she like flashed him her freaking little nipples or something. I don't even know.
Her hairy nipples.
Necrophilia or something. I don't even know. But anyways. So then he goes out the window and yeah, they're in love or something.
No.
Freaking bad.
No, he wants to get some more.
Wow. Alright, so it cuts from there.
It's the infamous Woodsboro High crime scene.
Cuts to the high school with all the media and the
And they
the
play the
cops.
official theme, Scream theme that we're playing right now.
And you're like, no way. And it cuts like this, and it's like, dude.
Awesome feel.
Alright, and then all the news media are
old
like,
school.
there was a brutal murder last night. Oh, and yeah, it's pretty tight.
Yeah, they're like, Casey Beckard was murdered
And
last
it's
night.
Rose McGowan and freaking Sydney.
96, smoking hot.
Walking
Actually,
into
she's
the
like
school.
pale as hell the whole movie.
I know. Well, why didn't she get a tan for this movie?
Wes Craven
Wes
would have
Craven's
been
like, what?
this
It's
is
all
Hollywood,
good.
like,
You
go
don't need
outside.
you don't need a tan. What? It's okay. Wow. This is before you.
And they dressed her up in like 90s, like,
attire.
that were terrible. She even wears like FUBU, like, jersey in it
Wow.
at one point.
Oh, what was the freaking set?
And anyway, she's like, Casey Becky was murdered last night. Cut in. She's like, and then Sydney was just
She's like,
like,
"Didn't
she
you
sits
hear?"
next to me in English. Oh
She's
yeah,
like,
not
"Didn't you
anymore.
hear?" Not anymore. There's some pretty tight lines in this movie. It's funny stuff.
Oh no, the dialogue's pretty clever. That's why this movie's a classic.
So then she shows everyone's like outside. It's like retired too.
No,
It's
then
like
they go to
such a
question the whole freaking high school, and they're like, "Hey, it's Sydney's turn." And then the principal, who's the Fonz, as we know, Henry Winkler, and he's just like, "Next is daughter of Maureen Prescott." All right, we're gonna keep this quick, Sydney. You were sober as hell last night, weren't you? Yep, sober as
set.
hell.
And she's called out of class.
Alright, you're
She's
done. Go
like-
back, and they just do a cutscene.
I mean, you can sum it up that quick, I guess. Yeah, she just gets called
They did
out
do
of her class.
cutscene. That was just my interpretation.
We'll just go with it.
Then it cuts to the main cast at the fountain.
Yeah, it cuts to him outside the school, like at the fountain, like it's a lunch break or something. And you're like, okay. And they're all like in their freaking early 30s, late 20s, looking like they're seniors and juniors. But anyways, so then they're talking. She's like, how could you even get someone like that? And then the freaking
Like,
Scooby-Doo...
it had to be a male.
No, the Scooby-Doo Shaggy guy's like,
Stu.
you take a knife, you start the groin, and you cut from...
It's called tact, you fuck.
Nah, and then he's just like... what does he say?
No, and they're like, it has to be a male, because a girl can't do that shit.
It takes a man, it takes
It's-
balls to do that.
They're like, basic instinct.
It takes Eric Vuthall
And then
92
Randy-
balls to do that.
Then Randy Meeks is just like...
Donnell Weeks?
Randy Meeks.
Oh, Randy Meeks. Oh, okay.
The infamous... What the... Now I lost my freaking...
Train of thought?
No, my note part. No, he was just like, that was a nice pick. Difference. There's a big difference.
Oh, yeah, because
Comparing it to Basic Instinct.
Oh, yeah, because she's like...
Oh, then they're
Rose
like talking to
McGowan, yeah,
Stu,
Rose-
and he's just
No,
like,
Rose,
did you know
Rose
that,
McGowan's like...
did the cops
Basic
know you
Instinct
dated
too?
the victim?
Everyone, oh, yeah, because they're talking about him, that he dated the victim. And he's just
Shaggy's like, "Psh, for 2 seconds.
He's like, for 2 seconds, yeah, but she dumped you for that other dude, and he's like, no. He's like, not true. Wow. Darnell Weeks.
So then it cuts to Sydney gets
Randy
dropped
Weeks.
off by the bus.
So then freaking
No, she's
it
riding the
cuts-
bus,
it
even though
cuts
she's
and
like a
it's her
junior in
getting
high
off the
school.
bus and freaking her 90s clothes and her
Like,
90s
what the hell?
backpack.
I know, she's wearing a sweater around her freaking waist, like only in the 90s did someone actually do that.
I know.
As
Who
a
used to have
fashion.
this sweater on a waist unless they're like an illegal immigrant, like crossing the border.
And then Sydney watches the TV broadcast with Gail Weathers.
They should like an illegal in
You aren't
Los
even
Angeles.
looking at your notes.
Yeah,
Would
I
you
am,
shut up
freaking
and
idiot.
talk about the
Wow.
next thing?
Wow. Okay, so then freaking she gets home.
Then it goes to
No,
emotional
this is where it's
filler
tight.
of
No, it's just
Sydney
tight
looking
shots
at mom's.
freaking of her at her house, and it's showing all the mountains all freaking around.
It's
all
the
hills.
subplot where her mom died.
It's
that
pretty
you know is
tight.
gonna tie in at
Isn't
some
this where
point.
Rose McGowan's talking to her on the phone? She's like, "I'm gonna come over."
And then she gets a call from Rose McGowan. She's just like, I'm thinking Tom Cruise, all the right
She's like,
moves.
yeah, Tom Cruise, all the moves. She's like, if you see.
I just saw that recently, actually.
Wow. And then Rose McGowan's like, if you see on the right angle, you
Useless
can see his
information, number
penis.
one.
Wow. You probably only watched to see Tom Cruise's penis.
No, it was definitely edited for TV, so I didn't get to see Leah Thompson's tits.
What? Okay. So, anyways, so Rose McGowan.
Then she gets a
her
call
friend's
from
coming over.
Ghostface Roger L. Jackson, the
And she
legend.
thinks it's her friend because she's like, she's like, you gave yourself away.
She thinks
I know
it's
you."
Randy because he's
Yeah.
a huge horror freak.
Yeah, he's a huge horror fan, and she thinks it's him.
Number one suspect. Number two suspect that the movie and the script throws at you. And they're talking about scary movies. And he's just like, what's your favorite scary movie?
And she's like, you know,
You
she's
know
like,
I don't watch that shit, Randy.
She's like, haha, nice try. You know I don't watch that shit. And
Even
it's
though
like,
she
wow.
wouldn't swear in real life because she's a 16-year-old virgin who rides the bus.
Wow.
And she's just
It's a
like,
script.
and he's just, and Roger L. Jackson's just like, maybe it's because I'm not Randy.
And you're like, it's just pretty tight.
If you hang up with me again, I'm gonna cut you just like your mother.
And she's like, and then she starts flipping out.
No, then she's like, I'll call your bluff. Where are you, motherfucker?
Oh yeah, she goes outside and she's like, you can see me, huh? She puts her
So
nose.
pathetic.
She puts her finger in her nose. She's like, what am I doing?
Alright, we're
Shut
gonna
up.
17 minutes in,
Alright,
so we're
we'll
gonna
go to
jump to part 2.
We'll leave off with that stupid
Our
scene.
in-depth
and we'll
horror
come back.
discussion on Scream, the original
Scream.
1996.